Well, good afternoon, good people, or good morning for some. We are here waiting to hear what the Dallas Cowboys have to say with their season-ending press conference. I'm trying to find it right now as we speak. We are waiting to hear what they have. So shout out to Chris May and Holly Pierce. And before we get too deep in it, let's not forget my good buddies at Sleeper.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using code JOBO. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Make sure you call your shot with Sleeper, too. So I'm curious where it's scheduled to start in 3 minutes and 7 seconds. I'm curious to see what the Dallas Cowboys actually have to say, and wonder if there'll be anything different than what we get every year. And it's kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it. And at least we got rid of Matt Everpuss. And it's funny, even my wife calls him now Matt Everpuss. Okay, that's what's even funnier. Let's see. I'm just trying to get it up. That's what he said. To make sure we have it ready to rock and roll. Okay. Error code figures. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at the moment. So more details. Error code. Okay. So the Cowboys are messing up their own so far. It's literally, you see what I'm seeing right here, right? Error code. Let's go back and try and reload it. Matt Everkitty. Okay, so here it is. Watch live. And when you click on it, oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. Well, that music drives me crazy, right? Does it drive anybody else crazy? Let's go, Cowboys. Yeah, let's go, all right. I hope this press conference is good today. I do. All right, we'll turn the sound off on that. Okay, so there we have it. We'll wait till we see them actually come up. So, what are you guys hoping for at this press conference? Are you hoping that Jerry Jones will say, I'm stepping down as GM, I'm going to increase the role for Will McClay, that we're going to have Brian Schottenheimer is going to call the shots. Yeah, Holly, I'm with you. I'm sick of the music too. Go, boy. And it's like, why do we have to have the press conference stuff going on for like 10, 15 minutes before with this pregame bull crap? How long have I been streaming? I'm late. Nick J, about 4 minutes. I literally just got here. We're just waiting for them to get started. Been busy running around. Hope me and Tracy are doing. Tracy is doing wonderful. She is just as lovely and talented as always. Logan Motorsports, good afternoon. Nick J, how are you doing? Curtis is in the house. Comic Flick Fiction. I hope I see Jerry mad and has a sick look on his face. I don't know if you're saying that because you're a Cowboy fan and you want him to get upset and do something. Yes, too loud. I hope there's a lot of candidates lined up to interview. Well, hopefully that they're not going to say, well, we got rid of the old, and we're going to think about it for about 3 weeks before we figure out who we want to hire. And it's like, don't, that's the kind of thing we don't want. That's what we don't want. Barry Reed, good morning. How are you doing? If you go to the Dallas what I have up here is actually the Dallas Cowboys website. That has the link on there. You'll probably see it on YouTube usually has it as well. Their YouTube channel will have it up, and you might see the link on like on Twitter. Usually when it starts, they'll have the link on Twitter as well. So I'd say go ahead and look at those places. Grant G, what's going on? Lola, oh my God, Lola is in the house? I haven't pushed that in a while. We have missed you, Miss Lola, Miss Hot Sauce. How are you doing today? Let's fix this D. You know what? Everybody talks about, Dak sucks. They only got 7 wins. When you look at the list of teams that have given up the amount of points that we have, most of them you see like two wins. 2 wins. So, yeah, the defense has got to be fixed. All right, as always, the Dallas Cowboys are late. It is 12:32, and I have not seen them. Boo, Cowboys all day. Johnson, Mr. Johnson, how are you doing? What's going on? Hot Wangs, boo hoo, go Steelers. Okay, Mr. Hot Wangs. Tired Jerry and Stephen Jones, dumb excuses, fans, tired for 30 years. Sir, smoke a lot. Dun, 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 dun. Hello, Cowboys Nation. How are you doing, man? Are you smoking a lot right now? I saw the list of the available free agents, and it's a long list. Our free agents that we have? We have a lot of free agents because we only sign guys for 1 year deals. The only free agent that we signed last year to more than 1 year was Solomon Thomas. So we know all those guys are going to go. All those guys are going to go. With the exception of who? George Pickens. He's a free agent, or will be, if we don't get him to a contract before. You're right. I like to build up that excitement before everything happens. But unfortunately, the ladies get a little disappointed. I try and tell her, I'm going to break your back. I'm going to work it so hard and everything else. And then I drop my pants. And she looks on over and she says, who you going to satisfy with that little thing? And I say, myself. Oh, if Jerry's gives us up the GM duties, who will take them over? Steven, he may be worse. Will Jerry pay him or BS? That's the big question here. You're 100% right on that one, Lola. Stephen Jones about the pie. Well, player acquisition is a 365-day-a-year job, and you've got to use pieces of pie to pay those guys, and we definitely want to make sure we have some pie in case somebody comes available. So we got to cut it a little bit thinner here and put a little bit there, and some guys, well, they just kind of get a little bit of pie crust, and some of them just get a little bit of the pie filling, and then some guys, well, they just get the crumbs that are left over. But me, I'm getting a big old piece of that pie. Yeah, because, I got a chemical engineering degree, and there ain't too many jobs out there for chemical engineers that aren't as bright as me. Thomas Garrett, how are you doing? We're just sitting here. I hear that every time I get naked, but I don't know. But they don't know my tongue is faster than a speeding bullet and more powerful than a locomotive. Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Oh, damn. Okay. So, of course, my brother's calling me now. I'll have to call him back. Damn dirty. Welcome, everybody. We're waiting. The Cowboys are building up anticipation here, having us wait and listen. But although we got the groovy tunes of the press conference music, let's listen in on that great music. That music, I'm telling you. Go Cowboys! Go Cowboys. God bless. Okay, Cowboys, go. Get this thing going. Make sure I am. Yep, I'm live. Make sure that I'm live and we don't miss it. Yes, Logan is still dirty, nasty, and available. So if you need to get your freak on, what's up, Smoke? Sir, Smoke a lot. What's good? I see everybody. Ruben Wall's in the house. How are you doing? Thomas Garrett, how are you doing? Check the wires here. Make sure we got nothing else transpiring. I'm actually a little bit worried about the idea of John Harbaugh going to the New York Giants. Is anybody else worried about that? That they might actually have a real coach. And that kind of worries me. I don't know if you guys saw that Malik Willis is knocked kind of silly and not going to be able to play this weekend. And Jordan Love, who's not really ready, might have to play. So it might be the Green Bay Packers lose to the Bears this weekend, and our pick goes down to 19. I'd be okay with that. 19-12, I'd be really okay with that. So the Giants are scheduled to interview Mike McCarthy today. Yeah. They're also talking to Jim Harbaugh. Yeah. And they've talked to Kevin Stefanski. Yeah, so we've got all three of those going on. So the Giants are definitely trying to make a difference. I hope we bring Henry in on a vet minimum. He's from Texas. You mean 2 years too late? In the back of Mike's car. I forgot to take it out, huh? Here's the keys. There we go. Call Mike Fisher. Maybe Fish could get this started. He ain't getting it started. The Cowboys will start when they want to get started. And for all we know, it might be a half hour from now. It might be one of those maybe it's a case of we're about to sign Brian Flores, and we want to break that news at the press conference, and they're working out the last details to have something big to happen. And don't forget today, oh, boy, I got work to do, and I'm just sitting here dealing with this shit. I've got the Dan Saleo show at 4:30 today, too. So there's that. Crazy Corvette, good morning to you. You know, I could have sit here. I should have known I could start this late because of the damn Cowboys are always behind. Damn you guys. Okay. Still waiting. Let's see. In other news. Let's see. The fact that the decision happened so quickly might reflect a change from Jerry Jones and his approach to coaching decision timelines. But it might just reflect that Brian Schottenheimer was one of the ones making the decision and will be running point on where they hire. So how do you guys feel about that? Do you think this was Jerry's call to go ahead and hurry up and get rid of the guy? Or do we think that we've got Brian Schottenheimer grabbing control and trying to force the hand of the Dallas Cowboys? I'm hoping that it's the case of Brian Schottenheimer, with the blessing of the Cowboys, is taking control of the operation, that it's getting out of the hands of the Joneses, and they're allowing him to make decisions for the team. Mean Metal Mike, what's going on? NFL and college playoffs this Saturday. I think Shoddy had something to do with it. You know, I think Shoddy had a bit to do with getting rid of Micah Parsons too. He didn't seem surprised. He didn't seem upset. He's talked about the culture that he wants to bring. When we watched Hard Knocks last night, he talked about the culture. He says we've got the right kind of culture going on here. Now that maybe it is Brian Schottenheimer and that he's got more power than we give the Jones credit for giving him. I'm hoping that's the case. Some of the things that have been kind of interesting watching transpire. Let me see if I can pull it up. Now, the Cowboys, when they hire people, they always like to hire people that they know, have had a relationship with, or people that are from within. Now, we don't know if the Cowboys are going to fire everybody on the defensive staff, if they're going to bring them all back, or what. We just don't know. Brandon Lore had said, I expect the Cowboys to move fast in looking at defensive coordinator candidates with Mac Everfist officially out. And looking at Brian Schottenheimer's background, it'd be easy to look at guys who've worked with Dan Quinn as fits. Schottenheimer and Quitt forged a strong relationship on Mike McCarthy's staff to the point where Quinn tried to bring Schottenheimer to Washington with him. Interesting. He says Jeff Ulrich and Raheem Morris could be potential candidates who have ties to Quinn. He also mentioned Brian Flores as a dark horse candidate. Matt Patricia, damn. As long as he's not head coach. The thing I was mentioning yesterday, not much Philadelphia. Parsons lost a lot of muscle on one leg. One leg is bigger than the other. Oh, I tell you what, crazy, man. Seeing him on the exercise bike brought back some painful memories. Although you don't really remember pain, you remember going through pain. When I had my left leg, and it's funny because I'm doing this hinge working out. It's like a hinge workout and stuff. It's been great. I've been doing it with my wife and stuff, and it's catered to your injuries or problems. And I'm doing squats without weights, and my wife is looking at my leg, and she's like, your leg is going crooked. I said, yeah, that's because the left orbit has ground a groove into the bottom bone because it's literally bone on bone. But I tore my ACL when I was 18 and in high school. And when you had the surgery on Friday, I began physical therapy on Monday. When you have surgery on your knee, it suckers like it's locked. And just beginning to do the stretching and things, they had a machine that you would put your leg in and it would gradually just bend it. And you get to a point where it just hurts like hell. And you get over that hump, and that's where Micah was, where he was trying to work the wheel and it bent it, and then he just got past that point and you get the relief on it. We all think that, they got injured, they'll be back next year. It's hard to recover from catastrophic injuries like that. The Cowboys are the worst. Brandy, I will say we are not the worst. I will say the New York Jets are the worst. We're bad, but I don't think we're the worst. I know we're worst on being on time because it was supposed to start at 11:30 and it's 11:44. That's the worst. Gina Dallas Diva's in the house. What's up, Gina? I don't rent. I own a house, and I was on a mortgage, but it's already paid off. There's a Cowboy fan living rent-free in my house. He has 3 months to find another home. Okay. Mike, if you're Aiden Durden, why would you leave the Seattle Seahawks laterally to come back to the Cowboys? You're already a defensive coordinator. You're the number one seed in the playoffs. You're on a great team. Leave that to the shit storm that is the Cowboys. I'm not sure. Eddie, and finally in 2014 replaced them. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let's turn up the sound.
Calvin, why don't you start us off?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning. Calvin,
Morning.
Good morning. Morning.
Morning.
How you doing, man? Morning.
How you doing?
Morning.
Calvin Watkins of the Dallas Morning News. Jerry, just your thoughts on the disappointment of where you are right now with your season.
Well, this is the first time in my life I've ever been disappointed.
What?
Most of the time, I've had more disappointments than I've had highs. And so this certainly is an example of what can happen to you in this game, football. You guys have heard me say that a lot of times. It has fleeting moments of euphoria, and then and those are made special by having hard times. Specifically, I am disappointed that we aren't in the playoffs and aren't in good shape to be in the playoffs. So that is a disappointment.
What's your message to the fan base in terms of you can get this fixed?
I think I point to the pluses that we have. I will start off by saying that Brian is one of the reasons for our fans to be excited about our future and his first year. And if there would be a definition of how you would like to come in your first time as being a head coach in the National Football League and have a nice learning experience, I think that you could say that he's experienced things that will, in my mind, make him better qualified to be the head coach in the coming years than he was when we hired him this time last year. So I point to that. I point to Dak, and I think we saw what we can have. I think I saw Dak at the best I've ever seen him this year, and that's saying a lot because he's played some great football around here. But first of all, we had him all year, and so I've seen him. I know I've been criticized that we wasted having him all year. One of the reasons in my mind that we had him all year is I liked the way that Brian put a plan in for our offense that was a combination of addressing success and good offense, along with things that took him out of harm's way in some cases. And so in a lot of cases, specifically, that was thought about, discussed, and planned going forward. Let's do everything we can do to keep him out there and keep him available. And so that worked very good, and you see the results that he had there. I think that some of the coaching that we had in our team was outstanding. From the assistant coaches, and he's going to speak to that, I'm sure, but I will tell you from my perspective, I saw things to get real excited. I want our fans to know. I saw some things to get real excited about the abilities that we have of our coaching. I would like to remind everybody that a fact of life in this NFL is availability, and that can go over into the coaching. Because if you have a lot of success, you're replacing coaches. You're replacing them all the time. Detroit lost their 2 coordinators last year. So you have, it's nothing new. The sun's coming up to be sitting each year looking at replacing a coach. The system in the NFL is designed for coaches to have the best chance to move on. And that happens, and if whether you're doing it really good or whether you're doing it really bad, that can happen to you. We've got to do a better job of when we have a change that needs to be made, for if it's our own volition or somebody else, we got to do a better job of picking who's going in there. But Brian, again, will be very involved in that process as we were last year when we made those changes. And we will do a very intense, complete, focused job of replacing where Flus and any holes that are left here because of Flus's job. I think those things are more positive
your
than
special team
negative.
coach needs to go.
And so I see improvement. I like what we've got to build on, the positives of the year where the offense did play well. We've got some young people involved in that offense. We've got some new people involved in the offense. The other thing I will say, and I don't want to get it going that I talk about Parsons a lot. I don't want to get that going. But I've been talking about Herschel Walker for 35 years.
Oh, Lordy.
And so it wasn't Herschel Walker that we're talking about when we talk about Herschel Walker. This ain't Micah no more that we're talking about when we say Micah. We're talking about the action, the trade. So please, let's get our identification of our boundaries set up. Having said that, the very best of what we were trying to get involving the Micah Parsons trade is all out there ahead of us. It's all ahead of us. We've got some of it on the field already. We're going to get more of it on the field in the draft. The very best of that trade is out there, not the least of which Stephen will address and can address it better than me. No way in the world could we have ever entertained having a player like Pickens for the future if we had signed and had still had the Parsons trade and hadn't made the trade. We would not have had any flexibility. It was zero chance of having that money available for that. And for that matter, when we look at what we've done with Quinton, it's very not likely, it's been impossible to have Quinton. So without getting wordy, which is impossible for me, as you know. Mm-hmm. Without getting wordy, the very best part of that trade will come now. It has come, but we can build on it. We will be better, the parts that we got, the Quinton, the parts that we got there. So I look forward to that. That is
so
material.
We're not talking about Micah anymore.
But it's only material if
trade.
you buy into where we would have been had we not made the trade. And that one you're going to have to take a lot of our word for of where we would have been had we not made the trade. But everybody in here can add and subtract and just use your imagination, and you can see we wouldn't be thinking about some of these things.
Clarence Hill, Dale Ellis Cowboys. My first question, Jerry, you've intimated, outright said that you were the one who hired Matt Eberflus. Moving forward to the next coordinator.
Who's going to hire the next?
Will Schottenheimer get to hire his own coordinator?
Trump just said it. I'm running. Venezuela. Seriously. Shotty had everything to do with hiring Matt Eberflus last time, and that's not done as a negative. It had no way in the world he's here if Shotty didn't want him here. Okay, let me be real clear about that. And he can tell you in his own words there. No way in the world if Stephen didn't want him here. But I particularly had a party when we got him to have him come in. And I was excited about having the uniqueness of his staff. The idea being you get, there is an advantage to having your proverbial, kicked and still living to tell about it, having been hit in the foxhole and come on back and have a go. Okay. That philosophy has not worked several times around here, and y'all have had me advocate it for the last 30 years. I like to have guys that have had hard times, and then they come back and get a chance to redeem it. One of the best things about all of football is you get to redeem yourself both on and off the field. If you're still active in a player, it's a redemption thing. And they've got that, and it will cause a lot of what you've done not satisfactory to be forgotten. Football does that for people, coaches and players. And so I say to our fans, the way we've done it, I'll assure you that the way we've done it in the past, that alone will cause me not to do it that way now. That alone. That's simple logic. If whatever we've been doing to do it in the past there, we need to change that, that'll happen. That's what you have to do when you're doing it, making the ultimate calls. We'll make it the same way that we've made all of the calls around here on staff. I wouldn't make a call if Stephen didn't agree with the call. I wouldn't make a call if we're involved with a player and somehow Will wasn't involved in the decision of making the call. I wouldn't do that. And by the way, those guys and me, we take a lot of opinion. If you want to criticize me for anything, it is
You're
that
right,
maybe
Dominic.
I should
Nobody has said shit.
make a lot of uninformed calls or contribution to the decision calls. But I've done it with consistency since the day I walked through the door here. We'll do it the same way as we hired Flus. We'll do it together and come up with as good as we can.
Brian, do you anticipate any more staff changes?
Same day.
Level or any staff changes now that Flus is gone?
Yeah, I mean, we're going through the exit interview process. I just got done with the players. I'll start the staff later this afternoon. And what I would say to that is, we're evaluating everything. This is I shared with you guys last week, right? This is an exciting time because we're getting answers to the test. We're figuring out where we came up short, where I came up short, where I need to be better. And, I want to go through the process. I want to sit down and continue to have great conversations with Stephen and Jerry, but that'll probably take through the next couple of days, and we'll evaluate things after that.
Jerry, actually for all you guys, Todd Archer with ESPN. Is head coaching experience a must for the new coordinator? And if it isn't, is a first-time coordinator a possibility for y'all to look at as well?
No, yes. Yeah, you ask a good question, and no, yes. No, it's not a requirement, having been a head coach, and yes, it's possible to have a first-time coordinator.
Shortest answer you've ever given.
Kind of left it wide open there.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
And Brian, why was there such a disconnect defense as you look at it now?
Yeah, I mean, Todd, when we go back through the year and you look at it, I mean, it was the inconsistency. It was different things every week. And, some of the struggles in the pass game when we were playing zone, and then some of the struggles in the pass game when we were playing man-to-man. And, me, the number one thing that you want to do is stop the run. I thought we actually did that in the latter part of the season. I think where we ultimately came up short was we weren't able to take the ball away. You look back at our shortcomings, and the team's playing this weekend, and I agree with Jerry. I'm sick that we're not playing this weekend. We're good enough to play this weekend. Unfortunately, starting with me, we didn't play good enough in terms of the ball. -9 in the giveaway takeaway ratio. That's terrible. It's terrible. And so we have to protect the football on offense. We did not do that at a high enough level.
We certainly didn't take
And quite
away.
frankly, we did not get enough turnovers. Why? Turnovers create momentum. There's game-changing plays. And as we go back through the season and we look at it, those are going to be certain things that we'll identify. And that's the process that's kind of already started.
John Machado, Athletic. Brian, what are you looking for specifically for your next defensive coordinator?
Yeah, I think John, a teacher. I love what Jerry said. We want to cast a wide, net of candidates and find someone that's a great teacher, a great communicator. You guys know me; you're around me a lot. I'm full of energy and love what I do. I think someone that's passionate about football, but the ability to take what is complicated information. What we ask our players to do in all three phases is complicated. We want guys that can say complicated information in a simple manner. And if I say something to you that you don't understand, I need the ability to say it a different way. The same message, but say it a different way, because how you learn might be different than how Nick learns or how Ed learns. And I think that's the starting point for me.
And then for Jerry, what is your offseason plan when it comes to free agency? Is there any plan to be even more aggressive than maybe years past?
Well, I've I think Clarence, everything that I've had happen, misquotes around here have emanated from Clarence. But we can have some fun. I don't want to sound by saying we're going to be active in free agency, then disappoint and say that we weren't. But if we have an opportunity in free agency.
Oh, here we go.
And if we have more than one opportunity, we're going to take advantage of the fact that we're in better shape today to play free agency than we thought we might be. And so we're going to use it. We're not saving it in our back pockets to use where our advantages are. So, yeah, I think so. We definitely are going to take advantage of these two number ones. Don't think that we couldn't do some trading here. with those two number ones. And so all of the value that you get out of having these extra picks and having some flexibility under the cap, we're going to take advantage of it. And we obviously don't have a mentality that we're dealing with a bad hand at all. I think we had some real success in free agency this year. And so that's a good one that's a good place to start. Pickens was a good stroke. And certainly we think Williams was a good stroke. We think Clark was a good stroke. And that's not different than free agency, but acquiring top people. These guys, to the person that I just mentioned, they love football and competing the way Michael Irvin did. Each one of the ones I just mentioned are about that. And I'm including Pickens in that very much. As much as we think that he's exceptional as a player, his love of the game and his passion about the game is unquestionable. That's strong stuff.
Pickens.
Nick Harris, our Telegram. Along those same lines, Jerry, with George Pickens, obviously an extension conversation is going to be had. Is there a priority for you guys to want to get it done sooner rather than later, or are you guys okay with taking the whole offseason?
Yeah, let's and again, those are the kinds of things. What's sooner, what's later. How bad do you want me? Does that mean that you should have been at the doorstep the other night? I don't want to get in those kinds of assessments of how much we're trying. He's an outstanding player. We don't have some of the issues that we might have had, and we are very proud. When we signed Dak, and boy, certainly after this year, you see in my mind how much that meant to the Dallas Cowboys and our fans to have Dak Prescott out here. But when we signed him, we took on a real direction of doing things that are really friendly to his future with the Cowboys. Right here is a big result of that. Brian was very friendly to the future of Dak Prescott in terms of just the proximity to to Prescott's career. It's important for us to protect him. Now, it's also very important that we alleviate some of the pressure of never having good field position or the type of thing that a balanced offense-defense does for you as far as what it can do for your quarterback. But again, if it's not obvious, I think it's very plain as the nose on your face. Everything we've done is because we made a choice to build and complement what Dak brings to the table. Does it mean that we shouldn't have a backup for Dak in case he's not available? We should, of course. But that's where our emphasis is, and that has dictated, since we made that decision, that's dictated a lot of our decisions around here.
And then when you guys are being for this next defensive coordinator and having the conversations, what kind of style, what kind of scheme are you guys going to be looking for that you think can maximize that side of the ball?
Well, I'm going to let Brian and Stephen, you guys answer that. I'd like to take a double handful of this guy's qualities right here and say, now that's what we're looking for over on the defensive coordinator. Real passion, real enthusiasm, great, I'm talking double great, ability to communicate with players. I'll start right there. But Brian.
Yeah, and what I would say, Nick, is, again, at the end of the day, we've had this conversation a lot. The best coaches, in my opinion, are flexible. So we're not going to pigeonhole ourselves and say, hey, we have to be 3-4, 4 down, whatever it is. I mean, I've been in the West Coast system, the digit system. Hell, I played for Steve Spurrier in the fun and gun, right? Good coaches take their players that they have. They've got an identity. They take their players and they fit their players into the model that fits what they do well. And that's why I go back to what I said earlier. You're looking for a teacher. You're looking for a guy that has the ability to instruct and get guys to believe and get guys to buy in. We're salesmen. when you're up there in front of the players, you're selling them on why what you're doing offensively, defensively, special teams,
gotta
why
get
it's
them
going
to
to work.
believe.
And part of that's your personality, part of it's your ability to communicate. But when we cast this wide net to go find the right guy for this job, which we will find, no question about it, it's going to be the things that Jerry was talking about, but also the flexibility of, hey, we can do different things, because those are the things that, when I talk with Jerry and Steven, those are the things that cause us problems, the flexibility and some of the unknowns and things like that.
I think that's shade being thrown at
We
at
brought on in
Everfoot.
Quentin, we brought on with Clark, and I can stop right there because they're there. They're tremendous players to build around from the ethos of the team about football and about you want dogs, they're dogs. You want people that know what a meeting means. You want people that know how to lead, those kinds of things. And I'm encouraged about that. We've got some great leadership about football and the little things that are required to go do that. That's very important, rather than wearing a hoodie at practice. That's important. That's big stuff.
Wearing a hoodie at practice.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is just
first time
that,
Stephen
when
Jones
we're
said
looking for this guy, we obviously have, we think, some really key pieces in place. And so you want this guy to have a vision for how he's going to use Q, how he's going to use Kenny, because we've made big commitments there, how he's going to use Osa, obviously easy at the end. You got
Q and
linebacker,
Kenny.
you got Bland. You want to see that vision, and then the vision for how fast we can get 2 number 1 picks. I'm not saying we're for sure going to pick defense. C.D. Lamb sitting there again, you have to look at it, but we've got to see that vision for where you bring in 2 number 1 picks and get them contributing right away. I think that's going to be really key when we start to talk to these different coaches. What is their vision and how they're going to use those pieces?
But I want to make sure that I'm not misunderstood about one thing. We have got some building blocks over on defense that are serious to having a great defense, and these guys are they have a talent. To be leader, you got to be talented. If you are talented and are a leader, somebody that influences your players inordinately, you got something. Dak Prescott's maybe the best I've ever been around at being the combination of that. If you could sprinkle that through the rest of your roster, you have gained on it, folks. And we've gained on it. That's what I'm trying to say. We've really, from where we were sitting here this time last year, we have made quantum leaps in my mind in the football character of our team.
And one thing I'm going to add to that, just having exit meetings with those guys, you give Q, you give Kenny an off season. Imagine the influence they're already having an influence. When I ask the guys, hey, who are the leaders in the locker room? Who are the guys of influence? 4, 95, 97, 92, 0. You give those guys an off season, being around the other players, powerful.
Tommy, that was Jerry. You mentioned building blocks and pieces you have on defense. As you've kind of evaluated the roster the last couple of days, where do you feel like you need to add in free agency or the draft, wherever it may be? What positions do you feel like you need more building blocks in?
Steven, you content?
Yeah, I think obviously linebacker. I mean, as we've mentioned, we love Overshown. I think he's a core piece of the defense, but certainly, we could use some help there at linebacker. And then I think secondary. It's always important to be able to cover the guys. And, between injuries, between Revel being a little slower getting into the mix, coming off his injury from college. He was obviously a little raw when you first get out there and you hadn't had a OTA practice or a training camp practice, and so it took him a while. So, I still think, though, we need, help in the back end. And certainly, obviously Clowney had a great finish to the last half of the season. And, I think he's an important guy for us to add. He's free to add to the mix.
Brian, Tyler Smith told you today that he was going to meet with you about left tackle, left guard. What was that conversation like? Did you come to a decision about where he'll play in the future?
Yeah, it was great. Actually, Tyler and I just had it, Tommy, and I was explaining to him. I said, "Hey, I think we feel that you're an incredible all-decade type guard." But at the end of the day, you're such a good player that at the end of the day, we have to play the 5 best guys. And in no way, shape, or form do I think that we can't, with a full year of Guyton and Nate Thomas and those guys and getting those guys going. But Sis wants some direction. And I said, right now you're a guard. But at the end of the day, we're going to do what's best for the Dallas Cowboys winning a Super Bowl. And that, just like we did the last 3 games, if we got to move you to tackle, we will. And excuse me. What I love about that is Tyler and I were able to have that conversation. He's like, makes perfect sense. I understand.
By the way, that's why he's a core piece going forward and why we wanted to sign him. I mean, versatility is huge when you can have a player that can be the best guard in the league and also swing out there and play to a Pro Bowl caliber level at tackle. We had that in Larry Allen. I think he actually did it. And I think he was all-pro at guard and swung out one year to tackle, and he made Pro Bowl All-Pro there. So, that's what we think of Tyler. And as Shotty said, he's the ultimate team guy to boot.
Ed Werder, WFAA. Looking long-term at the defense, in 3 of the last 6 years since 2020, we've had historically bad seasons in terms of points allowed under 3 different coordinators. When you look at what the issues are in that regard and what the fixes could be, what do you see?
And who are you asking that?
I'll ask you. I'll exonerate Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Ed. I'm going to take another drink of water.
No, I think that one of the principles that I have is I like, as I said earlier, I like people who have had some hard times. In general, I'm a sucker for hard times. And then I see them with skill and with the experience, and if given a chance to really excel, then they haul the leg off the chair to come do it. And that's really, if you look at it, you'll see that pattern in these hires. And I don't know that we deliberately had that written down, but certainly the ability to come back and get it on. And we've got to widen that dimension, dismiss it whatever you want to, and we can't let that criteria do it. I can tell you right now that there's a lot of reasons why that coming up off the mat is harder to do because you've had the wind knocked out of you, and you might not have the confidence, might not have some of those things, and I'm talking now generally here. But coming up off the mat, they should be heroes on coming off the mat. Boone Pickens was my greatest hero. And he got knocked down, knocked out when he was about 80. And he came back dead broke, had to fight over the China in a divorce, and fought over the China, and then turned around, and 5 years later, he picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille, and was a billionaire again. And he was so depressed during that time that he had to lift his leg out of the bed to get out of bed. He didn't feel like going. And he overcame that and went. And I said the same thing before the National Coaches Association when he was being honored, that here's a guy that knows how to get knocked down and come up. And if you can do it when you're 80 and get there by the time you're 85, you sure as hell ought to be able to do it when you're 20, coming back up when you're 25. So those are the kinds of things that were in my thinking relative to the past. And so that's why that you see the pattern, or somebody wrote in here, the profile of where we are. So without dwelling on it, we're not going to follow necessarily that as a criteria profile. We're going to develop another good reason to be involved. But I don't mind telling you, it has skewed my decision making.
When you look at what happened with McCarthy's first year, you replaced Mike Nolan, you hired Dan Quinn, you dedicated a draft that year to improving on defense. I think your first 6 picks, maybe 8, were all for the draft of defensive players. Do you envision that being a plan you could follow and create the same kind of dramatic turnaround in a single offseason?
Well, I'll be very candid with you. I'm not so sure. You know what we think of Dan Quinn. And we really admire everything that we had with Dan. But we didn't get where we want to get, not because of Dan, but we couldn't stop the run when it got down to the nut cutting. And so there's some aspects of that. Those turnovers we had with Dan, my goodness, put me in line. I'll stand up out there for that every time. And they cover up, a lot of things about cooking. If you make it so hot that it burns the roof of their mouth, and you make it so cold that it's like hot ice, it'll cover up a lot of the frailties of your talent on cooking.
Oh, here we go.
And so you can put some pretty good stuff out there. Well, those principles haven't necessarily worked for us. That doesn't mean that we won't have an ex-head coach in here at all. But it won't be the emphasis, at least on my part, today and what we're dealing with defenses today. But I have had a lot of luck, whatever you have had a lot of good decisions made based on taking people that, for whatever the reason, are out of the step right then, and giving them another opportunity when they have had accomplishment in their background, both in football and out of football.
Joe.
Joe Hoyt, Dallas Morning News. Jerry, you talked a lot about continuity being an edge, obviously, 4th defensive coordinator in 4 years. How vital is not only getting a defensive coordinator that's successful this year, but that can stick around for a while?
I wouldn't believe we had a discussion just right before we came down here. And what is continuity? A coach that has been here 4 years and got all rookies, those haven't been here but months. So where's the continuity? Is the coach got the continuity because he's talking to a lot of different players? In other words, those players don't necessarily match up with the continuity of a tenure of a coach at all. And how do you match that up? I would say this: be a little careful about building a defense around a certain experience aspect to it. Guys. Be careful about having key cornerstones out there, when availability will probably wipe that out for you 1 or 2 different times, where you may have as many as 2 or 3 missing at any time in a 17-game schedule.
So we're
as old Barry Switzer used to say, we're going to start over here in the East, going to California. These covered wagons, I'm the wagon master. We're going to burn some of them for firewood. Some's going to die along the way. And we're going to break them down, float the Mississippi River with them. And we're going to have a lot born on the way. This will not be the same group, but the train's going to get there. I just hope you're on it, because I'm going to be on it when it goes. So the whole point is, there's a little bit of that in football. What you get started with is not what you end up with. What we're talking about is you got to have somebody that can roll with the punch and put a theory out there that you can bring in rookies, and you can bring in somebody that you've picked up during the season. How about guys you pick up the week before? We've had teams in the NFL playing with those guys. Diggs did it up at Green Bay. You got to be ready to go with that kind of stuff, and that may be a bigger adaptability issue, or maybe a bigger plus to what you're dealing with as a coordinator than maybe the fact that you've been through hard times and won a Super Bowl, but want to show it again.
Steven, today you guys could do interview requests for non-playoff team staff members. Have you guys made any requests, and do you have a working timeline with what you want to do for this hire at defensive coordinator?
We haven't made any requests yet. Obviously,
shit.
when we get ready to do that, we'll make those. And,
No requests. Are you kidding
Go through
me?
the proper channels, to communicate with these people, and but we're still making the decisions on who we want to bring in here for interviews.
Do you have a working time though?
Yeah, I think this week, as this week goes along, we'll probably get to a point where we're sending those request forms in.
Newey from NBC5. Stephen, question for you. What's your strategy on Javonte Williams, who you got a kind of excellent year for you here, and the way that whole running back market goes, especially considering what it was once we had Ezekiel Elliott, and then just being able to hit on him this time?
Sure. I mean, Javonte's at the top of our list to go out and sign, and we want to bring him back. We want to sign him to a multiple-year deal, and we'll be, Adam and I have been talking about it, about how we want to get started with his agent. It's my understanding he really wants to be back as well, which is helpful, but certainly that's one of our priorities is to get him re-signed.
Shadi, question you here. Name somebody mentioned me earlier. You used to coach with the New York Jets, Dennis Thurman. Your thoughts on him, former Cowboy, possibly being here on the staff in some way at all?
Yeah. Again, DT was with us with the Jets. I thought, he's a really good coach, but I think there's a ton of great coaches out there, and what I love is our ability to talk through and have discussions about different guys. And again, I go back to the fact that we want to cast a very wide net, and we're going to talk to a lot of people. And why? It's an important decision. And it's a decision we're going to get right because we understand that there's going to be guys that want this job. Why? Well, we've got some incredible pieces in place. Jerry just talked about them. Quentin Williams, Kenny Clark, Osa, Overshown, Ezeraku. Talented young players like Vaughn, Shamar James. And so, again, I think it's an exciting time for us because we feel like going through the process, it could be tedious. It could be a lot of long hours, but that's what we love. And that's what you have to do to get the decision right.
Oh, boy.
The teaching.
DT's a very, very, very good communicator. Always has been. I was actually with DT in New York and at USC.
We really all are aware, everybody in here aware that we want to, and if we could have played some better defense this year, we might still be playing. We all are aware of that. But I want you to know this is not even close to being on par if we were sitting here looking at having made a head coach change. This isn't even in the same stratosphere as far as the challenge. We're going to find a good coach. And I'm not trying to diminish it at all. I just want to get it in perspective here. It should be numbers of people that can be good coordinators for us. Now, if we were sitting here talking about like we were last year and about making a change there and what have you, that rascal right there and that decision and where you go there, that's a horse of a different color. But you can't be in this business in the NFL and not be planning on either with failure or success changing defense and offense coordinators. You can't be. It's part of it.
Patrick.
Hey, fellas, Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Two questions, both of the questions is for the panel in general. When you talk about the look for the defensive coordinator, Jerry, you said you guys are not adverse to someone who's not been a coordinator prior. On the back end of the season, after that 3-game surge following the Quentin Williams trade, when the defense kind of started to unravel, was there ever consideration to move on from Matt Eberflus at that time and maybe elevate someone like an Aaron White-Cotton so you could, give him a real-time interview to see if he had what you guys would be looking for in that role going forward?
Yeah, I think, we at that time felt very strong that Flus is a damn good football coach and that we were going to work together, all of us. It's not just Matt Eberflus, okay? My name is on this record as well, and I take the accountability of that, right? I'm the head football coach, but Flus, the defensive staff, we felt like we were looking for examples, and we've talked about this. We came out of a tough stretch. We won 3 games in a row. We put ourselves really in a very good spot to be in contention for the playoffs, and we didn't finish. And so the answer to the question is no. we were playing every week to win, and I think that's what we're learning and trying to do because of the high goals that we have here to want to be a championship football team.
Following up that really quickly, but changing gears, Clarence asked earlier about potentially another coordinator change. When you guys look at your special teams unit, it was the best in the league over the past couple of seasons or more. Took a huge step back in a lot of different categories. I know you said you guys want to do evaluation with Nick Sorensen and whatnot. Whether you choose to move on from Sorensen or not, what do you guys feel is the biggest thing that needs to happen to make sure that you guys' special teams unit gets back to where it was?
Yeah, it's funny, Patrick, because Jerry and I actually, with Steven, we talked about this last year. We have to figure out a way to not have penalties. The penalties on special teams, I think we were 31st in the league. Yep. And whether people are seeing the star on their helmet and they think we hold, but, we have to be cleaner because Jerry talked about the field position. We're explosive offense and things like that, but we have to be cleaner with our hands. We have to make better decisions full speed. I think, we're figuring out that the bigger bodies, I'll speak to Brevin Spawn-Ford. I mean, here's a guy who hadn't played any special teams. He was dominant. So, again, it's year one. And, again, great exit interview with Terp. There's things that Terp feels like, hey, I can do better with this and all that. So as we go through the process, again, I think you'll see us make adjustments because the standard is the standard, and it was not high enough in that phase either.
He's we like Sorensen. Obviously, he doesn't upset, but I was part of the question, and we do like Sorensen. On the other hand, he's got a problem with the owner. That was my forte, and I know that if you want it bad enough, you can play special teams. If you damn sure got enough talent to be on defense or offense, you can play special teams. And I know you can play without getting penalties. I know that. And so we've got some work to do, but that ought to be one area, as Coach said, that ought to be one area that you can get better in if those are your problems.
Jonah
Javad, WFAA. Two questions. The first was Shadi. Jim Leonard, you guys overlapped a little bit in New York. Just curious, what your relationship is like, and do you guys still have any familiarity? I know the NFL's kind of, a bit of a fraternity, but.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Jim before we played Denver. Jim's a heck of a football coach. You talk about just a great football player, man. We had some great years together in New York, and again, I would not say we've stayed in touch. This business is hard, right? You get going a million miles, but you got to speak to what Sean and that entire staff has done there. And Vance Joseph, obviously, a guy a ton of respect for. So Jim's an excellent coach, and I think they had a heck of a year.
Hard pivot, Jerry. Question for you. You mentioned at the start of this press conference how the Micah Parsons trade allows you to sign George Pickens, or at least put you in position to sign George Pickens long term. But somebody asked earlier what the plan is there. If that trade happens, which it did, if you don't sign George Pickens, then is it a failure?
If the trade doesn't happen,
you traded Micah Parsons, so you put yourself in a better position to sign George Pickens.
Yes, I follow that.
Are you going to sign George Pickens long term?
Again, it put us in the position to have the flexibility. Had we not had the room let me be real clear, had we not had the room that we now have because of the Parsons trade, there was no flexibility and not even an option to sign George Pickens. So I can be emphatic. Now, whether we sign him or not, if that's your question, whether we sign him or not, if one thing the explanation shows you is how much you have to keep your mind on where you are under the cap. Oh, Lordy. Because it will get you inflexible. And so to the answer to your question, when we make a decision around here, we have to decide exactly do we have the room and what does it do to your flexibility under the cap going forward. You have to do that every time.
I think the other thing, which I would add too, we gave up a third-round pick to have a chance to have a top number 2 receiver, which we were hoping to get in the draft maybe, but didn't. And the thought process is when you give a 3, and let's say we couldn't have signed him back, then yes, it'd still have been a success because we'd have had a great year this year, and you would get a third-round pick probably back from a compensatory standpoint. So that was our thought process on signing a guy with 1 year left for a third-round pick, knowing, and it happens around the league, we're not the only ones who think like that, but then you get your third back when he signs somewhere else for a lot of money. If we couldn't have signed him.
Yeah. Had I
Or
known,
franchising.
to a crystal ball that Pickens was going to have the year he's had, then it wouldn't have been so late in the time that you'd heard about a trade. Had I known he was going to have that kind of year. Because I can't say it enough factually. If we don't have that, we have no flexibility to do things like that going forward. It had everything to do with the trade.
Jeff, Fox for Stephen, for you. Think about what you're able to do here right now, sitting next to your dad and answering these questions. We saw in the final episode of the Netflix series, you got emotional when asked about the succession plan and said you want to win a Super Bowl with Dad soon. Why does it mean so much to you to be able to specifically end the Super Bowl drought with your dad?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we want to get done. I mean, I know whether it's his gold jacket, all the things he's accomplished from the value of this franchise, I think he'd give a lot of that up for one more Super Bowl. And it's not just me. It's my brother, it's my sister, it's Shotty, it's Will. Everybody in this organization wants to get the job done. And obviously winning a Super Bowl when you're in sports of any kind, whatever sport it is, whatever level it is, to win a championship is the ultimate prize in terms of what you're shooting for. Over the finances, over the individual accolades, everything should be about, winning a championship. My son did it in high school. It was the ultimate. Whenever a college team wins a championship, I mean, it's you never forget it. I mean, Jerry said he lives with that national championship to this day. They can't ever take it away from you. And certainly what we want to do is get one more for sure.
Well, now, I don't mind telling you I'm a little uncomfortable with the little way this conversation's rolling around here. But having said that, and since we know that being uncomfortable is not your right either, you can be uncomfortable and go do it. My goal in life is to retire as the owner that won the most Super Bowls. That's my goal, to be retired in the NFL as the owner that won the most Super Bowls. We've got 3. How many more do I have to go as a single owner? Bob's got how many? 6? So I've got
work to do.
Got work to do. I got work to do, but at least I'm up to the second rung in the ladder. But my goal is to have retired and won the most Super Bowl as an owner.
Jerry, I'll follow up on that. Would you ever actually retire?
Well, I will go down. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say.
He's a 10-toe high guy.
I'm not going to say that at all. But listen, I don't want to dare the gods, okay, around here. But seriously, guys, I want to have to say this to everybody in this room. I hope y'all. I don't know what your ages are, but I hope. Let's just say Stephen's age. If he has as much fun between where he is today and where I am today in age, if he has as much fun as the guy sitting here beside him, he's in for a hell of a ride and a hell of a life. I've had my most fun in the last 21 years. And obviously, everybody likes to dream. And I promise you, high and hard on my dream list, way ahead of making a buck, okay? Because I don't need a buck. Way ahead of that is to go down as the owner that won the most Super Bowls.
The owner, he wants to be the owner that won the most Super Bowls.
Sports, Jerry, Stephen, a lot was made about your direct negotiations with Micah. How do you plan to approach with George? Do you plan to talk to him directly, change the approach and talk to David Mulligata, or how do you plan to approach Pickens' negotiations this year?
Well, I don't even think about it. Because I don't buy into or agree with the characterization of the negotiation you're referring to by anybody. And I don't agree, and I know they don't know because they can't get inside my head, for one. So, but I will tell you, the characterizations of a lot of the way that I handle the Micah Parsons negotiation is so backwards from where it actually came down. It's unbelievable. And they certainly didn't realize ever that there was always, from the get-go, a concern about going forward with that much invested, with all the things you have to think about, availability, allocation of that much money. By the way, everybody in this business has to think about how much allocation. And when you allocate, you better start thinking about availability too, because that's a big criteria there on, are they going to be on the field to basically get what you got? That's a big deal. And so some places it's unavoidable at quarterback. It's unavoidable there. But other places, you've got some choices, and it's either or. So that was the driver and always was the driver. And Micah, I really do think a lot of Micah. And he's brilliant in a lot of different ways. So, and wish him the greatest success you've ever seen, and don't even think the least if he has a condescending remark or interprets my remarks as condescending. That's just not the way that I interpret this situation at all. What I am going to say is I'm glad I'm sitting right here where we are. I am proud of that, and I know he's happy where he is.
So with George Pickens, how do you plan to approach those negotiations this time around in terms of direct contact versus the agent?
Yeah, so much of that has to do with option quarterbacking, reading the move as you take the next step. And so I wouldn't dare try to say I'll do anything relative to a business negotiation or, in this case, contract negotiation. I wouldn't dare make a comparison between any contract on go, because it's human reaction, it's human situations, and so there won't be any comparison. Gosh, you guys know me pretty well in here. I can be as whatever you want me to be. And I can be sweet, or I can be the other way too. So however we need to do it.
Kyle.
Kyle Yilkins, Cowboys TV. Stephen, looking ahead at the draft a little bit, when you have production so different on the offensive side versus the defensive side this past season, does that change the way you evaluate certain prospects when you're putting together your draft board as a group and as a front office?
No. I think that's where you make your biggest mistakes. I mean, we were planning on taking a defensive player when we picked C.D. Lamb. You got to put the board up true. It's got to be quality of player, one after the other. And then when it's your turn to pick, you got to weigh. Now, if there's a guy we really need versus a guy who's sitting in there really close, then we reserve the right to make that decision. Although the offensive guy may be a little higher, we might still go with the defensive guy, but you certainly don't want to reach, just to scratch an itch, if you will, to do that. So we'll put our board up like we always do.
Is he getting his Jerryisms now?
You also got to weed through some of that, because whether it's your coaches, whether it's your scouts, everybody knows, and you tend to try to find more good in some of the things that you might need, whether it's a pass rusher, whether it's a corner, a linebacker. You want to make sure you're not looking too hard to find all his good qualities and overlook maybe some of the things that could hurt him. So we're aware of that as well.
First time you've picking twice in the first round in quite some time as well. How does that change the way that Will McClay and his individuals under him are going to put together that board and continue to look toward the prospects?
It shouldn't affect the way we put up our board, the fact that we have 2 1s. I think we'll put it up the way we've always done it. We always look to get better every year. We look for ways to improve. We sit with Will. Will sits with all his scouts, and, where can we be better? Where should we be spending more time? Obviously, the landscape of college football has changed that, where you spend your time, because, all the good players that are on that are on smaller school teams find their way this day and time in NIL up to the good teams pretty quickly. So you don't find those guys as much as you used to, like a Revel in a small school, because they get found by the Power 5 guys and they bring them up. So, one of the things we've talked about, let's focus, even more so on the Power 5 schools, because that's really where, a lot of the top players are in those schools.
Mac. Let me add to this what he said. The board does not pick the player at all. The board gives you the greatest way for that we can evaluate the player with a lot of people's input. Now, that's not to say that Will McClay isn't involved in picking a player, but that's apart from the board. That's apart from running scouts. That's apart from doing all of that. The picking of the player is involved in coaches' input and all those. So I want to be real clear there that your head of scouting does not pick the player. That is a process. Let me say this. Because the stakes are so high, and because if you have players that are going to receive big percentages of the total payroll, that I've always been a little forgiving, or I've always been a little tolerant of character flaws, off the field issues, or tendencies like that. Today, old Jerry's thought about how we used to step up there and pick that. You can't do that anymore if you're going to invest 10% or 15% of all your resources, because you will get hurt. And so that has changed, really changed in terms of how you pick players, the character look at them, and what have you. And it's also, you don't want to be buying, I used this recently, you don't want to get a jet plane to just fly from downtown Dallas to the Star. That's an overkill. And so you have to decide there's some great players, but they just aren't quite as needed to get the job done as maybe two that are lesser but better players to get the job done. So you can have overkill. That has changed over the last several years, and that's some of the impact of dealing with the cap with it. And we know firsthand, because we have to spend a lot of time at the league level going over the consequences of what happens to teams that really get in underwater real bad with the cap.
Mac.
Mac, and before we start Telegram, Brian, two questions, one for Brian, one for Jerry. Brian, you've had the job now for about a year. Knowing what you know now and having gone through a full calendar, what do you think you'll do different to hopefully, for your own sake, to be a better head coach?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of things. I think experience is the greatest teacher in all, if you're willing to go back and reflect, which, again, I'm beginning the process. As you guys know, you go through different phases, right? You get hired, and then you get ready for, free agency, and then the draft, and then the players come back. And then, once you get out to training camp, it's full steam ahead. Now is the time to take a deep breath, go back and reflect, but there will be a number of changes. And, again, I like talking to the players. I like talking to the coaches while it's fresh in their mind, and we cover everything. We cover the way we practice, the meeting time, and how much time we have in between practice, and the way we travel, and how many days we do pads, and what Friday looks like, and all those things. And what I love about this group of young men is the one thing I think we've taught them that they've learned this year is it's okay to have hard conversations. I had a number of players, say things that, hey, Shotty, I think you could do this better. And I thanked them. I said, I appreciate that, because if they're not going to share that information with me, then how am I supposed to know? Or if there's an issue I have to deal with, they have to share that with me. And I think that's why the culture that we've built here is so special. But there will be a number of things. And not one right now jumps off the top of my mind, but probably because there'll be a number of them.
Quick, Jerry. Jerry, what do you say to the fan, the ticket buying fan, the fan who spends hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars supporting the team, who are really fatigued by the team's lack of postseason success? And they say, damn it, Jerry, this is your fault. I want more. What do you say to that group of people about improving the state of basically postseason success?
Well, first of all, I'm talking to the fan, and you are saying, Jerry, I want more. And I have lived a life of having people say, Jerry, I want more. I expect that. Jerry wants more. To be talking to third person, which I don't want to do. But I know we want more. I want more. And my point to you is that I feel, whether you or others would disagree, our best way to get more is to do what we're going to be doing over the next few days. Last year, I thought the best way to get more, and it was a consensus, was to have Brian come on and be the head coach. I thought that was a better way for us to get more. I happen to know, because I've been in this NFL for this many years, I happen to know that you don't always get more. And sometimes you get it. You get some real shockers as time has gone along.
I want to get off.
I want our fans to know how important this is to me. I want our fans to know that I lay awake at night looking for an edge. I want them to know that, contrary to popular belief, the financial rewards of what we decide in the draft or have as a football team or what have you is not an issue at all here. Not an issue at all. I would give his reference, it wasn't when I did the very foolish thing of buying the team to begin with, which was very foolish financially to buy the food. Not a smart move at all. Now, wonderful things have happened, and I've been riding along to get the benefit of a lot of those wonderful things. But I have, I'm driven from my case to do as good a job as I can. Stephen has huge influence on me. Shotty has tremendous influence on me. Others have a lot of influence. I'm beyond ego. Don't need another award. I want to win the football game. That felt so good to win that game against Washington that I wanted to play this game like it was the Super Bowl out here against the Giants. And that's the way I want to play it. A win is a big deal. A win is a big deal. Do we need to be strategic? Does it help to have, we lost Sunday? Does it help to have these draft picks that we're going to have these extra power in the draft? Yes. That's sensible. I'm beyond being sensible relative to that. So that's all I've got to say is I'm on the incentive plan more than I've ever been. If I took a vote, I know about where it would be. But when's the last time you read somebody that was making decisions that if you took a vote, they wouldn't get to make that decision, but they don't vote? And so I'm not being any way other than that's what I do. That's why I'm here, and that's why we are doing everything we can to figure out to make a Super Bowl. These guys will tell you that I will change my mind on a dime. On a dime, if they come in with a better idea and a better suggestion that got enough influence to, with their logic to take advantage of it. I want them to be sure that they've thought about it as much as I think about it, and they do. But I don't want anybody just with ideas or holding their finger up in the air. I want some real meat on the bone when they come in, and we do it differently. So that's the way it is. Body of work, where it is. I can tell you, I look back when we started. We did it exactly the same way from the first day I've ever walked through the door. And there's never been a difference in the way we do it than the way we're doing right there. So whatever the good's been, the good's there. Whatever the bad's been, the bad's there.
Last one, Kevin.
Kevin Sherrington, Dallas Morning News. Stephen, you talked about Javonte Williams and George Pickens being priorities to re-sign. but you already have made a significant investment in the offense. That's a lot of your salary cap, and then also invested in those 3 defensive tackles. How are you going to have enough money left to fix what's the matter with the defense?
Yeah, we have to be efficient. It starts, as we've talked about, with the draft. I think someone mentioned we had a draft one year where we picked, the first 6, 7 picks were defensive players. And obviously that's a route to go as well, but we will also be able to look at guys, priorities, Clowney, priorities, if we see the right deal, which is historically how we've been in free agency, especially as you've mentioned, we've got a lot of big money tied up in, 7 or 8 players. But, part of making a great football team is having the complementary pieces as well. And I think that's where we struggled some this year. Our complementary pieces, weren't as good as we might need. And whether that was because we weren't getting them in the right position, from a strategic standpoint, or whether it's just lack of skill. I mean, all those are things that we're going to evaluate. Obviously, that's why we're in the market for a defensive coordinator right now. That's part of it.
And second question, the last 15 drafts, you drafted a lot of players on offense who made Pro Bowls, made a lot of Pro Bowls, 46 I think it is, 42, but far fewer on the defensive side have made Pro Bowls. I wondered if that is a concern of y'all and why you think that has happened over the years, that you've been so much better drafting offensive players in the last 15 years than you have defensive.
Yeah, I don't know that I can put a finger on why. It's certainly something we want to change, starting with this draft. I mean, we want to go out there and find really good football players like Osa, like Overshone, guys like that, like a Bland. We've got to be better, and we've just got to see what our vision is. We've got to start by getting, our defensive coordinator and what our vision is for how we're going to play defense, and then we've got to meld that vision with how we select talent to play in that scheme. And that'll be real important as well, is that we all, whether it's Jerry, whether it's myself, Coach Schottenheimer, the defensive coordinator, the scouting staff, the guys who are on the road, got to have a vision for what we're looking for, so that when we put those guys in there, they can have success.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. All right. Thank God. Well, that's an hour and 15 minutes of my life I will never get back. I'm not sure what they really said there, other than Clowney and George Pickens are key players that they want to bring back. We got back to almost talking about the pie. Not sure that anything changed. Jerry, kind of threw Eberflus under the bus there, saying, Brian Schottenheimer under the bus with Eberflus. But other than that, you didn't, Logan Motorsports, you didn't miss anything. So, I'm going to get out of here on that. I'll have more on this later, and then we've got the Dan Saleo show at 4:30. All right, people, love y'all. I got to get out of here. I just feel like I've gone 10 rounds.
Can't stand it anymore. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Stewardess, please let me handle this.
I've got to get
Calm down now. Get back to your seat. I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're one on the phone. Everything's going to be all right. Please.
Sister, please, I'll handle this.